Great. Good evening, or good morning, good afternoon, sorry, and good night. There you go. Welcome to the Glens Falls Board of Public Safety meeting. It's 4 p.m. Wednesday, February 12th, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Our first up, as always, is our public comment period. If anybody would like to join the speak to the Board of Public Safety, please come and speak to us here, and we will we'll hear your addresses. Any concerns? So, Mr. Campia-Bianca, please, sir.
Thank you for letting me say a few words. Frank Campia-Bianca, live on Sheridan Street. My wife and I have been there for almost 45 years, since the mid-70s.
Newcomer then.
Yeah, relatively. Never be a native, probably. But anyway, she is a native. She was born and raised here at Linda's. But anyway, I'm here to give you a little bit of feedback on what I've been seeing happening around the city in the last few years. There's been a proliferation of electric-powered vehicles. I'm not talking cars necessarily, but little scooters, e-bikes to some extent, but more the scooters and the skateboards. And you virtually you don't have to do anything to let them go. You know, they just go. A lot of them you don't have to pedal. The e-bikes even, and I see a lot of them violating traffic laws all around. For years, Linda and I have walked first our son to Kensington School, and when he was going to school, there weren't that many people that were speeding a lot in the speed zone near that school. But in the last 10 years, when we walk our grandkids to school, it's like night and day. There's so much more speeding going on in school zones, especially. And some of them are the e-bikes, but that's really a separate issue. But as far as the e-bikes goes, one major problem I see is that some of them are riding on sidewalks, and I see that as extremely dangerous, because if somebody's walking along and they're coming behind you, you can't hear them. They're virtually quiet, and you might be hard to get out of the way. I think there's accidents waiting to happen there, and I've got a couple of suggestions I'll say at the very end, and I'm almost actually done. So there was an article in the New York Times not that long ago, just about a month ago, that quoted one of the police chiefs in New York City. The quote was, "We need to be more cognizant and make more arrests of people that are driving illegal motorbikes and scooters in unsafe ways." So there are other people around the area, or around the state at least, that are cognizant of this and are possibly passing ordinances, or whatever. Let me see. Okay, so here's a couple of suggestions I'll just throw out. One of them is to pass an ordinance, and I know that's the purview of the Common Council probably, but an ordinance would be good to have on the books that says that e-bikes, anything electrically powered, cannot be driven on sidewalks. And I would include the bike trail as well. I'm also a member of the Adirondack Cycling Advocates. I don't know how many of you have heard of that organization, but we advocate for cycling and safety. And it used to be called the Warren County Safe and Quality Bicycling Organization. To cut that size down, it was renamed to make it a little more noticeable in your mind. But anyway, if anyone has any suggestions that I can pass on to them, I can be your conduit, because I do go to those meetings, and they meet every month or so. We just had our annual meeting not long ago, and there was a lot of good things that were discussed. So I can help out on that if you would like. Another thought that I had was perhaps in the spring, a public service safety campaign could be done of some sort using the media, the Post-Star, the Chronicle. I know that the Warren County, Don Lehman used to be with the Post-Star. He does that weekly newsletter, which I don't know whether any of you read that. I get that all the time. There's some really good things in there. Now, a public safety campaign would include a reminder of people that pedestrians walk on the opposite side of the road facing traffic. We see people not abiding by that a lot. Things like that. And then e-bikes, people need to, if you're in the road, people need to be reminded that they have to follow the same rules that cars do. And reminders of that, I think, would help out, and as much of the media as it could be possibly get it out. So the last thing is, I did write a letter into the Albany Times-Union, which I don't know whether anybody saw it, which there was another letter that prompted me to write it, because one of the letter writers was slamming they have school zone cameras there. Does anyone know that they have a program of that? They install cameras in many of the school zones. I'm not sure how many, but, and they're activated by the license plate, and people get tickets if they speed. But my understanding was they don't even issue a ticket unless you're going over 30. And the speed zones down there are between 15 and 20. So they're given a lot of leeway. But this letter writer that wrote a letter that prompted my response he said it was a total money grab, because they're making a lot of money off of this now. And, you know, people are speeding, and they should be held accountable for that. So I wrote a letter in saying, look, the point is not how much money they're making. It's to keep the school area safe for children and parents that are going in. So they actually published that letter in the Albany paper. I was kind of proud of that. But so I thought, why can't we do something like that here? Just maybe is worth looking at. I don't know whether anybody in this group has ever considered that, but I think it's something that could be reasonably examined, and I'd be glad to help with that. So,
Great.
Okay, that's what I wanted to say. Thank you for listening.
Sure. A couple just clarifying, so I want to make sure that I heard you clearly. There was a point about, first about e-scooters, e-bikes, anything. It does seem like a few might not even, like, it's not a scooter, it's like it's not a skateboard, it's a wheel with a board on both sides that I guess you might call it a skateboard, I don't know. So we've seen a lot of them. One is that you would like to request the Board of Public Safety to consider an ordinance in Glens Falls that prohibits those folks from riding those in their vehicles, I suppose, in some sort of broad sense of vehicle, those devices on our sidewalks. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that would be point one?
Yes.
Okay. And you might tell us a little bit about your conversation with Chief Smith, because we knew you were coming and we wanted to talk about that, and we did. And I believe that the chief is also in general agreement that we could do something like that. Okay, so then the next one that you had mentioned was, which I think there would be much more, maybe debate, doesn't mean it's any less of a good or not have any merit, but about on the bike trails. We've talked about, there have been people that have come to the Board of Public Safety in the last year, maybe a little longer, that wanted us, this board, to consider opening up our bike path to e-bikes specifically, because they are legal on the bike path on places outside the city. So the rest of Warren County is legal to have an e-bike on the rest of Warren County's bike path. It is not in the city. I'll tell you in a moment why. But then they're also, those e-bikes are certain classifications they're legal throughout all the roads in New York. And so that was the argument. They're legal in New York, and they should be legal on our bike path. Let me paraphrase if I can for the board, and then you can correct me if I don't say this accurately. The board feels that there are concerns with our bike path in general, that there are people that aren't following the rules as they currently are. Right now, you're not supposed to be, it is a bike path, you're not supposed to be walking your dogs on those paths. You're supposed to be being safe in your use, and we know that there's not. We also believed, at least the consensus was, that these are the most used. The bike path that's within the city is the most used of all of Warren County's bike path. It is just that busy because we're the only city in Warren County, and they are that used. So we have these concerns, and we knew that our police department is not actively patrolling our bike path. They don't have time to actively patrol our bike path. And even though nobody had any particular concerns about e-bikes, there was a person here who felt that e-bikes are actually safer than the rest. There was much debate over that and disagreement. But at the point, the Board of Public Safety said, we're going to take no action because until we have the resources to address the misuses currently on our bike path, we'd rather not encourage more use by e-bikes. We weren't going to prohibit them. We weren't going to allow them. We were going to leave the object alone, and that's where the board currently stands on that. Okay. And then one last thing before I let you go. Thank you. The other one, if I understood right, was about electronic monitoring in our school districts. That has been brought up by Councilman Lapham on the City Council, and I've agreed. We've actually attended. I've attended a NICOM conference where it's been used and it's cut down. I don't know how much of a money grab it is, but it has reduced the deaths in the areas of the schools that they've approved it in, and tremendously. It cut down speed and accidents and deaths in many districts, which allowed that widening of that law. So the city of Glens Falls invested just recently in our first mobile monitoring, speed monitoring system that can also, so it can monitor, normally right now we have a couple that our police force uses that says you're going too fast, it slows down. And what we know is that it slows people down for a little while, and then they speed right back up, and we move it to another area and they speed right back up. And we also know that the Board of Public Safety has recognized that the increase in traffic in Glens Falls is it's getting worse, that everybody has their favorite cut-through streets, Western Avenue being one, Sanford and East Sanford being another. And so what we did is we bought a system that can not only take your speed, but issue and read your license so we can issue tickets. Nice. We just purchased it. Oh, it hasn't been delivered yet. And we will start to use that. We believe we're not so concerned about, certainly the increased money is nice, but it will be nice. But it's about slowing people down. Most of our we're also paying for 3 different studies we announced in the State of the City address. We're doing traffic studies around Jackson Heights, Big Cross. Anybody else? Chip, can you remember the third? So Kensington might be. 2 have been done, and it's the 3 that haven't been done. We'll now have traffic studies done paid for by AGFTC, and I was able to announce that. So we're going to do that, and we're going to start to catch those people that, while we were looking with the town of Queensbury at a traffic, we're putting a tip request in for Western Avenue. And the residents, Western is the border between Glens Falls and Queensbury. So I met with Supervisor Stroud, and we toured the Western Avenue problem. While we were standing there with the engineers on the corner of Western and Grand, is it? Grant? Grant. 3 different people ran the stop sign right in front of us. It was amazing. We appreciate it, and we know we're taking action.
Good. That's
all right.
The only other suggestion I had was about a public safety campaign through some of the local media. I don't know whether that's something that could be done, but I could help work on that if you wanted to.
Great. Well, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mike, before we'll move on, we want to at least tell us your conversation. So Mike and I had a meeting. We knew this was coming. And go ahead. You want to tell us what the chief's thoughts are, first steps?
The chief and I discussed this briefly, this business of people riding bicycles, motorized and otherwise, on the sidewalk. And he said his men his officers would not have authority if we did not have an ordinance. If we have an ordinance, they can then tell people, get off the sidewalk, you're breaking the law. Without the ordinance, all they can do is say, get off the sidewalk, you're doing something unsafe. That puts them in a very bad position. They can't enforce anything that way. So without an ordinance, there's not much they can do. So what I did is I researched this business of ordinances a bit, And if you just bear with me, I tried to make this as brief as possible. So it's easily read and it's to the,
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
anybody got one?
Yep.
And just so it gets into the record, I'll just briefly read it. It says, 9 states completely prohibit riding bicycles on sidewalks. 6 additional states prohibit bicycle sidewalk riding in the downtown business district. 14 additional states allow municipalities to prohibit riding bicycles on sidewalks. And 8 additional states prohibit vehicles from sidewalk riding, whatever they define a vehicle as. And my point is, as the population ages, more elderly walk on our sidewalks for exercise and visit local businesses. They're fragile and suffer serious injuries when impacted or knocked down. Allowing motorized bicycles on our sidewalk creates a legal liability exposure, which we're aware of, and we recognize it and can prevent. Our children walk to school on these sidewalks. They don't need to be dodging bicycles and motorized vehicles. And motorized bicycles and scooters are frequently operated by persons with no New York State operator's license, no training, no insurance. So my recommendations are to prohibit operation of any motorized wheeled device on city sidewalks except for assistance to the handicapped. The second recommendation is to prohibit operation of any bicycle on downtown business district sidewalks.
I have a question. So, what would happen if a child was using one of these? For example, my boyfriend's younger sister is 9 years old, and for Christmas she got a motorized scooter. It can go pretty fast for a scooter.
Yeah.
So, if she were to use that to get to school, and her parents would say, "Don't go on the road, you get hit by a car." So then, what would we do in a circumstance like that?
You know, we're gonna have to think about how to implement this.
Here's one big thing,
What's that?
and we discussed this before to some extent because we've had complaints. We've all experienced these scooters just blowing right by us, blowing the red lights, stop signs. And definitely endangering the welfare of our citizens that are walking our sidewalks downtown. In forming this ordinance, you've got to identify what we're talking about here specifically, because there's different classifications of these scooters as to what constitutes, and I may be wrong on this, using the term motorized, because I'm not sure. We know that they're battery powered. Okay, so you've got to get into the legal side of this, which you will anyways, but you've got to have the ordinance right to begin with.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah, I agree with this.
And his question, is age a question that, you know, you do and you prohibit it for all, and that if you're under a certain age, then we basically let the parents know that we do appreciate that they're doing it for safety, and maybe they're not going to be able to, you know, go to an area to play and to use it, right? And not on the sidewalks to get to school.
And we have 2 different categories of sidewalks. We got sidewalks here, and then we got sidewalks where I live, where kids go to school. But down here, this is dangerous down
Right.
here in the business district. And you know, something like 2 million people go on Medicare every day. Every day. Baby boomers, people like me and you guys. And you know, we got a person out of the Public Safety Commission now over a simple fall on her patio.
Yeah.
I mean, old people break easy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, and I mean, look, this summer, right, we had 2 people almost killed. Did one die? I'm not sure. I know both of them, what I know about them is that were serious accidents. They were both riding electric vehicles, electric bicycles, going the wrong way, not on sidewalks, so they're going the wrong way and blew through a red light and got hit. And then we did give them tickets. and both were hospitalized. One may have passed away or was in ICU the last I knew, and the other was hurt badly, but was okay after a short hospital stay. So there are people that are being much more dangerous than others. There are people that are adults and could easily be in the street, but we'd want them following the rules of the road. So, Mike, maybe we could ask you if you would be so willing, and you could get a group of people like Mr. Campobianca, I'm going to get his name wrong, but meet with the chief or a designee of the chief and start to write down this possible ordinance, and let's take a look at it and bring it back to you. And if you all over time, there's nothing that happens fast in government. We need to make sure, to Bob's point, needs to be written right, needs to be inclusive. There seems like of course maybe it's just because I'm getting old too, seems like they're coming up with new versions of these vehicles all the time. And so we need to make sure that it covers all, and that it has different, even though it might be illegal to have any motorized vehicle on any sidewalk, there might be different actions that we can take depending on the age of the person. You certainly don't want to, we just want to, if we see an 8-year-old on a scooter zipping down the street, that we stop and we help them find out and say to their parents, here's our card. Have your mom call me when you get home, right? And let's help them and the family understand our concerns for safety. I think most of those parents would respond very well to that. Some might think we're being a little overbearing, but we know that's just not, we're not looking to be overbearing. My sons, who both lived in Manhattan for a long time, one's still in Manhattan, the other has moved to Glens Falls. It's funny, he's still working in Manhattan, but living here, which is an insane concept alone to me. But both of them have said that the e-bikes in New York City were much more dangerous than the cars or the regular bikes, because you hear the regular bike coming down. So there is a separate bike lane. So they have what I guess we would call complete streets here in Glens Falls. You've got your regular car traffic, then you've got a bike lane and a walking lane, and then you got your sidewalk, right? And it's the bike lane and the e-scooters that are more scary to both of my 20-something-year-old sons than the car lane or the sidewalk, right? And so it's just the silence of them and the speed by which they're going that has got them both hyper aware. So anyway, that certainly, if that's a concern, then it should be a concern for us, and let's not wait for something more to happen. I think it would be great to look at. Mike, is that something you could help us follow up on?
Yes.
That's great. And if anybody wants to provide input on your thoughts about it, I mean, Bob, you certainly have more knowledge of the law than you'll have forgotten more than we'll ever know. So if you can give them some advice as to what good ordinance written and not would be great.
And I think, Mike, we were discussing the bike path in Glens Falls. Whether it's electric motor or a gasoline motor, if it's motorized.
Yeah,
That was,
designation.
That was kind of the way we designated our thinking when we were looking at not supporting allowing them on the bike trail.
Yeah.
Not to interrupt you, Johnny, but the big reason was it's not safe.
Yeah.
And Bob
Landry.
came to the meeting and brought that point up, and he's right.
Yeah.
When that was constructed, it was not wide enough.
It's too narrow.
It was too narrow to begin with now. And,
So,
So it wasn't about it was not about necessarily electric vehicles.
We weren't
it was
trying
just
to just-
any more in.
only pertaining to the bike trail.
Yes, that's correct.
Now, the other issue is whether they're battery operated.
Yeah, I think
That's where-
I was singularly mentioning how motorized should be interpreted,
Yeah.
which whether it's gas powered or battery powered, there's a motor there.
A motor's a motor.
Motor's a
So
motor.
what do
Well,
we
it's
try
just
to-
funny because the
So that-
current law, if you take your mini bike and with, and a gas powered mini bike, and immediately the police see you and they'd stop you and other people would say, get the hell off of here. But they're not that way with an electric motor.
That's where I was
Yeah.
going.
So I think we're in agreement there. What I kept thinking of, and we haven't taken any action on it, just because I get run over with the day-to-day here at City Hall. I think that we really should look at a group of people that can help us with bike safety and education. And I think that we should be addressing our bike path anyway. That was the overwhelming thing, and this might have been before you were on the board, Charlotte. What we didn't take any action because we recognized that the overall bike path was dangerous, as it is today. And we didn't, and although we didn't want to necessarily discriminate against people with disabilities and electric bikes, which was what the councilman was telling us that we were doing, we didn't want to do that. We just don't have right now anybody to help us oversee it, and it's dangerous as it is. So even if we had one more electric bike encouraged to be on there, that we didn't want to be part of. So we really do need to think about a long-term, we've done that before for our parks. Remember when we used to hire Donnie Long, helped us with patrolling our parks back when we were kids. And if you were doing no good and you were at a city park, and Donnie Long come and move you along. And we do have, I formed a special task force to look at our parks and working with the chief and Darlene at what we're doing about some folks that are spending too much time in our parks and making it unfriendly. Maybe we could think about that. Could we get a group of people together that could help us to increase just to help us keep an eye on our bike path and who's using it and how they're using it, and help us without I don't know, we don't want to necessarily create the what's the name of the company, Curtis Sliwa did their Guardian Angels, right? Bike path angels. I don't know. I think about it and think of what we might be able to do. We don't want to. You know what I mean? I know we don't want that, right? What we do maybe want some people that can help us, because I think Glens Falls is small enough that if we had some people that we know are on that path and we gave them, and said, look, just when you see a guy walking his dog, please tell him he's not supposed to be on here. I think if we did that for a few months, we might clean up a lot of problems. Anyway, is there any other public comment? I don't see any here. Peter, do you have any online?
Not right now.
Number 3 is a resolution to approve the minutes of the December 11th, 2024 meeting of the Board of Public Safety. There are no minutes from January as there was no Board of Public Safety meeting held. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 4 is a resolution to approve the annual Memorial Mile Run on May 26, 2025, from 9:50 to 10 a.m. in the same manner as it has been held in previous years. This run directly precedes the City Memorial Day Parade at Glens Falls PD. A work order has been sent to the PD, which will be out in front of the runners as a precaution. Any questions about the event?
Make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. 5 is a resolution to approve the Montgomery graduation block party street closure. What's TBH, Chip? Sorry.
To be held.
To be held, thank you. On May 24th, 2025, from 2 to 10 p.m. on Sagamore Street, the corner of Sagamore and Cooper, and Hunter and Cooper. Work order has been sent to DPW to drop off and retrieve the barricades. The event holder has been informed and understands the safety requirements that must be adhered to. Questions?
I move approval.
Do we know where the tent's gonna be put up? Will it be
Yep, we've actually had one that I've attended before, and it's kind of just on one side of the street.
Okay, so, but
Yeah.
there's
They know.
vehicles and stuff.
Absolutely. Yep.
I move approval.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 6 is a resolution to approve the Glens Falls Hospital 2025 Aloha Family 5K 1 mile fun walk. Sorry, I want to make it a run. To be held at Haviland's Cove on May 31st, 2025, between 7 a.m. and noon. Setup will commence on May 30th and noon to until the race walk will draw. Expected 300 people. Event organizers are requesting extra picnic tables and refuse containers for up to 300 attendees. They're also requesting the power on the pavilion for music and awards notification. So that will be entirely off-road and on the trails. Volunteers will be on hand to ensure safety, and work orders will be sent. Any questions?
Are you gonna run?
I will run this one. I will run this one. I'm not running the Shamrock thing because it's 5 miles and I'm not there yet. I'll do the 3. I can fake that, but the 5 is a little too far for me. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 7 is a resolution to approve the 2025 Shamrock Shuffle. I will volunteer to be held on March 23rd, 2025 from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. This 5-mile race will be held in the same manner as previous races, stepping off at the Glens Falls High School and finishing there as well. The race has a course that runs through Glens Falls and Queensbury combined. The Glens Falls PD leads off and provides safety for the event. Volunteers have the coats and the flags. It's a pretty well attended event and been here many years. Kevin Sullivan has retired, I believe, and they've carried on without him. Do we have questions? Motion?
Make a motion.
No second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Under new business, we had the letter of concern from a constituent to board member Mike Seidel, and that's the conversation and the public input that we just had. We don't have any other new business. Old business. Anybody else have anything from old business want to bring forward? Not seeing that. Chief Smith's report. Chief Smith asked for permission to not be here today. His kids have a large wrestling tournament, and he knew it was near and dear to my heart, so I said that he didn't need to be here. I thought you'd excuse him. You have his report. Anybody have any questions, thoughts about his report?
Make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Deputy Chief, if you bring anybody from your family into a wrestling tournament, let you know that I'll excuse you too. That's great. So, Deputy Chief Motor.
All right, happy New Year to everyone. Finally get to see your happy faces after a nice holiday and a month off, so to speak. The fire department has been very busy. We've had 328 calls for service in January, and on top of that, almost 300 hours in training. If you break that down, that's pretty much 11 calls per day average and 75 hours per crew man hours. So not only are they running calls, but they're putting in a lot of time with their training. As you do know, that there's been 7 new hirees. They were all back in-house in January. We just sent 3 to the academy last week, or actually this week, Sunday. So they drove down pretty much in a snowstorm. They'll probably be driving back on Thursday in a snowstorm and probably be heading back in a snowstorm on Sunday. So, you know, everything changes in the world, but that's what we have to do to make this job work out and get the training we need.
And are they using your new car?
Are.
Your new vehicle bought with ARPA money?
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
They're getting that.
Is it electric?
It is
See,
halfway. It's
all right,
hybrid.
Hybrid, there we go.
Nice.
I got just the green energy, just want you all
There
to
you
know
go.
that.
It's more gas mileage. As you may know, I've heard through the media sources around the neighborhood, Lieutenant Hall and the mayor and the city council members last night were able to come to an agreement with the union on donating time at no cost to the city residents in order to help him get to his
Great job.
retirement date. So once again, I'd like to thank the mayor and the council and all the members that helped with that to make that happen.
Well done to your firefighters too, to give up their time.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I do have a statement, that press release that's gone out this afternoon, just a few moments ago. I'll read it to you if you don't mind. Are you done, though? Let me finish your report.
Since it's right on
We
the.
set? We good? So, the City of Glens Falls is pleased to announce that the Common Council is able to pass a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding with the Glens Falls firefighters from a floor vote. This agreement allows the firefighters to donate sick and vacation time to help fellow firefighter Lieutenant Hall reach his retirement while imposing no cost on the city taxpayers. Most importantly, honoring Lieutenant Hall and his service to the city. Mayor Collins said the diligent work of determined negotiators enabling this agreement. Want a special thanks go out to our city's Human Resources Director, Judy Villa-White, and all the attorneys and the union leadership and their attorneys. This group of people did all the substantial work on this agreement, and they deserve full credit. I also said that Common Council must be recognized for its careful attention to its duty to the city and to the law. The Labor and the Personnel Management Committee Chair, Councilman Bob Landry in particular, contributed to pushing the agreement to full council approval. Also want to thank the many Glens Falls residents who supported the union members and the city officials in their efforts to reach this just and lawful solution. I'm sure that we're all happy to come together for Lieutenant Hall. It's fantastic. You guys did a great job following through.
It's a great achievement for the city. I also want to mimic the council members' reminders last night, as we are now finally getting some snow amounts in the city, to make sure that we clean out our hydrants and our sidewalks in front of our homes. That is a twofold issue. One, if you leave your sidewalks messy and icy, they freeze over, your neighbors walking down the street slip and fall. That causes injury to your neighbors, and I'm sure everybody loves their neighbors. Also too, if we have to show up to your home for an emergency and your sidewalks and your driveways are ice and snow packed, it makes it a little bit harder for us to get in. Not that we don't shovel it out, because we do carry shovels with us, but it adds that extra time to getting to you and providing that service. As well as the hydrants. That's another negative. If we have to take time to shovel that out to get our connections open so we can get our hoses hooked up to it, that's a delay in service as well, especially when it is needed. So just a reminder to make sure that your sidewalks and hydrants are cleaned out for your safety and that of others. Can I see that one that I gave you? That right. I'd like to take this time to read you a commendation that I'd like to put into the record. This happened on January 15th at 11:25. A crew was a crew that was working. On Wednesday, January 15th, 2025 at 11:15 a.m., the City of Glens Falls Fire Department responded to a fire incident at 158 Bay Street. Multiple emergency calls were received prior to our arrival reporting significant fire activity. Fires in buildings, older buildings such as this one, often present unique challenges in containment and extinguishment. From the onset of this incident, you and your crew encountered numerous obstacles, including a rapidly progressing fire threatening other floors of the structure and the critical rescue of a resident from the second floor. Despite these challenges, the members of A Crew successfully executed the rescue of an unconscious wheelchair-bound resident from the second floor of the fire building. This rescue required significant manpower and coordination under extraordinary conditions, including zero visibility and the necessity to navigate the interior stairwell. The victim required immediate medical attention, which your team provided while ensuring their safety. Following this life-saving rescue, you directed fire suppression efforts that successfully contained the fire to its unit of origin, minimizing damage to surrounding units. This outcome reflects your crew's abilities, decisiveness, unwavering commitment to life safety, and property preservation. The actions of A Crew on January 15, 2025 demonstrated exceptional professionalism, courage, and dedication to duty. The traits displayed not only reflect positively on you, but also exemplify the values and capabilities of the City of Glens Falls Fire Department. The strength, skill, and perseverance you and your team exhibited during this challenging event embody the high standards of service our community relies upon. On behalf of the Fire Department and the City of Glens Falls, this letter serves as a formal commendation to your exemplary behavior and dedication to public service. Please accept our sincere gratitude and recognition for your role in this incident. And the members of recognition are Captain Rick Stafford, Lieutenant Tom Ordway, Fire Prevention Officer Lieutenant Aaron Worf, firefighter Gary Stillman, firefighter Miros Formanek, firefighter Ryan Ward, firefighter John Hugavine, firefighter Connor Timms, and firefighter Kyle Spezio. So I'd just like to make this a motion that we place this in the record as a commendation for members of the A crew.
This go in their personnel folders?
It will, yep. Later on, we are still awaiting the individual to successfully arrive back at home. She expressed the wishes to have a little ceremony, if you will, and actually giving a commendation award to the members of A crew as well in her presence. So we'll be doing that at a later time. That completes my report, but I'd also like to have a moment of your time in executive session to discuss a personnel issue.
Sure.
And
When
come back
we-
with the result.
When, so will we have a motion after this?
Yes.
Okay, so, personnel.
Promotion.
So, wait, stay right there. So we go, first, let's just do that separately. Can we have a motion to accept this accommodation for this
Also,
A crew?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make a motion.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. We will need you to stay, and I apologize.
No, it's fine.
If we don't, if I can ask, Chip, you can go, and we'll have Emily go into the mayor's conference room, and that's
Well
good.
done.
Peter, we can cut for the night? Thank you.